The entire sports world has come to a halt to honor the passing of Willie Mays, and how fortunate that my good friend Marty Lurie not only was around Willie an awful lot, but was around him so much that he became Willie Mays' good friend. Marty, let's start with this. I know you're in Birmingham. You're going to be there covering the Rickwood Field Series, and that's wonderful. Obviously, what it was going to be and what it will be now are two different things. But I want to start with me just saying to you, I'm sorry that you lost your friend, brother.
Yeah, it's a big loss for me and for the baseball community and for everyone in general. Willie Mays was sort of the picture of our youth, rounding second with the hat falling off and the "Say Hey Kid," the catch over the shoulder. How many times did we see it? And it really signified youth to us. And he always will be that eternal 21-year-old coming up from Minneapolis up to the New York Giants. But he lived a life that we all wish that we could have. And being down here in Birmingham, which was basically his hometown, coming from Fairfield, which is just a suburb of Birmingham, and being around here and seeing the topography and the greenery and going to the Negro Southern League Museum yesterday and realizing that Willie played in that league, which was a feeder league to the Black Barons, when he was in the 10th grade in high school. The guy was playing center field for the Chattanooga Choo-Choos. His father would drive him up there on the weekends. And that's how the Black Barons finally saw him and said, no, we want him here. And he played center field until he graduated high school. So getting to see that was really special. And then yesterday, we went over to Rickwood Field to see the minor league game between Montgomery and Birmingham. And just to see that little field, Damon, it's like a spring training field, really. That's what reminded me of going to Surprise. And to think all the greats played on this little minor league field, including Willie playing center field there, and to see the tributes, because this game really was dedicated to Willie Mays and the Negro Leagues, being the big name and the last surviving member, really, of the Kansas City Monarchs, Birmingham Barons World Series of 48. This was Willie's moment. And it's really turned into almost a memorial for Willie. I think the game becomes secondary for tomorrow night. And it's really everyone giving their thoughts, like I am now, like you will, about Willie. And that's what this is now here in Birmingham all about. And this morning I went on the civil rights tour and saw the 16th Street Baptist Church, where the four little girls were killed in the bombing in 1963. And then across the street, there was a big mural to be unfurled, honoring Willie. And he's all over the place. And he was the ultimate showman. And he went out in a way where he was the showman going out. And it touched everybody down here. I must tell you, everybody. You get in the Uber, you go in the elevator, you walk around. The death of Willie Mays has touched everyone. That's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, and you can feel the outpouring. Obviously, back here in San Francisco, his statue has been turned now into a living memorial. It's got flowers and jerseys and notes all over it, attached by grandfathers, fathers, sons. This is a generational connection. I was many years ago was talking with a friend of mine about, when will you contemplate your own mortality? And he said, the day Michael Jordan dies will be a day that I feel old, because that's the guy, that was my guy when I was in high school. And I think for your generation, Marty, this kind of is that. This is a subtraction of a romantic, poetic piece of a childhood that, baseball's past has always been more valuable than its present or its future. That's what makes the sport so special. And baseball has lost its most significant connection to its past in losing Willie Mays.
Yeah, well said. When I think about it, Koufax is still here. Marichal is still here. Orlando Cepeda is still here. And you look for that connection back to my youth and growing up. Those are the last few, really, for me, of the big stars. And you're right. Willie represented that for our generation. He was the guy. And people ask me, was he a good ball player? He was a great ball player. The numbers don't matter at all. And just to go back a little bit in what I was talking about earlier, Willie was a high school kid playing with the toughest men in the world. They sharpened their spikes like razors. They wanted to win a game. They played 6 games a week. They played bus rides. They couldn't eat in restaurants. They were tough men. And he was the center fielder. And he did it in high school. And he wanted his high school diploma. He was a good kid, Willie. He was a good kid. And he wanted his high school diploma. And the Barons had a game. Well, he didn't go to the game that night, and he got his high school diploma. Next day, he ended up hitting a 3-run homer for the Barons, and he had his diploma. And that's what Willie did. But when he got up to the big leagues, Damon, this wasn't the 21-year-old or 20-year-old saying, gee whiz, Ma, they're throwing the curveballs. What do I do now? He was a man. He wasn't just a rookie. He was a man. And people say, gee, in 51, he did this. And look, in 54, after 2 years gone for the Army, where he learned the basket catch, he came back and led the league in hitting and MVP and all that. What a great young player. He was a tough player, and he was tough his entire life. He didn't miss games. If you look from 54 to 64, the guy missed like 12 games the whole time. And that's what he was to us. When baseball happened, the All-Star game happened, Willie Mays owned the All-Star game. He was the best of the best. And that's what he represented to me as a baseball player.
What's the old saying? There are only two artists that have ever been born into this world, Willie Shakespeare and Willie Mays. They really, truly are. There was a poetry attached to his game that I've learned an awful lot about through you and all the years that I've listened to you. And you've always been, someone who's cared about the game statistically, but you care about the game more romantically than most I've ever met. And that's why you and I became instant good friends. I remember a day in Scottsdale where you were sitting at a table having a coffee with Willie Mays. I grabbed a breakfast burrito. I sat down with you. And, I've been able to sit with a lot of athletes in my lifetime. Not one of them made me run out and call my dad to share him what just happened, because I knew how much it would mean to him. Your generation is a generation that is stubborn, pig-headed, and that's the beauty of you. It's also the weakness of your generation all at the same time. But whenever you can get a million grandfathers to agree on one thing, there must be truth to it. And that's why I never really argued against Willie Mays being the greatest. There were enough people who were so stubborn and didn't give compliments, threw them around like manhole covers, who couldn't just wait to tell you about Willie Mays and what they meant to them. Tell me a little bit about your connection and like the best night you ever had with a man who, again, went from being your hero to your friend.
Well, Willie and I really got our relationship going the way you just described in spring training. He would come in, he had his table right in the middle of the clubhouse, and he would sit down, and I would sit down too and talk with him. And in baseball, sometimes it's good to be old. It was good for me to be old. I knew his career, and he would test me all the time, and he would say, give me the starting lineup for the 56 Reds. And I go, well, it was Ted Kluszewski and Johnny Temple and Roy McMillan and Wally Post and Gus Bell, Frank Robinson, Ed Bailey. He'd go, yeah, who played third? And I would say, Ray Jablonski. And he would look at me, and he knew at that point. And I could do that with him. We could go back and forth about his career. And the thing about Willie and I thought about it a lot this morning, he trusted me. He trusted me. And that was huge, because Willie didn't trust everybody, and he really trusted me. And we developed a relationship where he did these shows at Tommy Bahama, at Coca-Cola, and they would charge X amount of dollars, and they'd sell it out, 500 people, 1,000 people, and they'd come in, he'd sign a ball, you take a picture with him, and then for an hour and a half, I would interview him in front of the audience. Now, keep in mind, Willie's sight was challenged at this point, but it was him and me, he and I on the stage, and he had to trust me at that point to ask the questions properly and to have that relationship with him in front of the audience. And he did. And he would say to me, hey, you're a lawyer, ask better questions than that. And I'd say to him, look, for 60 years, you've been milking that catch. We know you had it all the way. Who are you kidding? You know, and we would do this in front of thousands, 1,000 people and go back and forth. I never did that with anybody. And I don't know if Willie ever did that himself with anyone. So it led to this. We went to Palm Springs and we were at a luncheon for the Foundation for Barbara Sinatra. And again, these luncheons, 1,000 people. Al Rosen was still alive. He was there, of course, who played against Willie in 1954. And Willie and I would do our thing. And we had done it enough times where it was our dance. I'd ask him about high school. I'd ask him about Leo DeRocher, and I knew kind of where we were going.
Right. You guys had you had your bit.
Right. We had our dance. You know that. Well, I went off the script and I said to him at the end, I said, Willie, how would you like to be remembered by the fans? And he started to cry. He started to cry on the stage. And it's just me and him. I don't have a handkerchief. I don't have, what am I going to give him? And he starts to cry and he says, everything I did for the fans. When I showed up, I wanted to perform for them. Everything I did on the field, I did for the fans. I love the fans. I love the people. That was my connection. And that's what he said. And I had never asked him that question before. And that was the most moving time I ever saw him. And it was in front of all these people. And look, I've tried a few cases in my life. I've cross-examined a few people. I've done a few capital cases and some homicides. Sitting up there with Willie at that moment, it was just terrible in a way that I couldn't control it, of being like in court again, that kind of thing. And he came through beautifully with his answer. It was really something else.
Well, I tell you,
yeah.
The saying "game recognizes game." I think genuine recognizes genuine, and he knew that. Look, there are a lot of people who wanted to use Willie Mays for their own clout and their own fame, and I think that he saw someone in you who wasn't about that.
Yeah.
Who just really wanted to befriend the guy and make sure that he was framed the right way. And you did remarkable work with him. You really did. I'm getting
come out to the patio. Come on.
Yeah.
The guy came out to the patio. He loved pecan. He loved Patrick. He'd come out there and say, "Where's pecan?"
Everybody loves pecan. I mean, that's the way it was.
Pecan would say what he wanted to say, and pecan was from the South. And Willie, of course, from Alabama. Willie did things with us that he really didn't do with other people. And there was the trust. And that's what I'll always value from him. I really will.
A getaway day for the Giants on the north side of Chicago. I'm guessing you haven't been able to talk with anyone with the team's traveling party. You're already in Birmingham. They'll all get there tonight. You'll probably talk more tonight, tomorrow. But do you know anything about plans in terms of honoring Willie back in San Francisco? I think he should lay in state, either in center field or at home plate, and allow the city to come through and pay their respects, very much like Babe Ruth's funeral back at Old Yankee Stadium. I think it would be appropriate. There aren't many sports figures who deserve that send-off. I think he does in this town.
Yeah, I have not heard anything official yet. But the rumor is that they will do something, maybe even tomorrow, during the game, of having some sort of statue or something in the outfield where people can come into the park and sign the book, like with Babe Ruth when they came and saw him laying in state. I don't think they'll do that with Willie per se, but I think they will come up with something symbolic where the fans can come into the park and do just what you described, and it may even happen tomorrow.
I'm telling you, the line will reach. Forget about the Bay Bridge. The line will probably go around the entire Embarcadero. It really would.
Yeah, they know it, and they I believe something like that will happen, and perhaps even as early as tomorrow during the game, which will be obviously coming here from Rickwood tomorrow.
The entire sky turned orange as John Miller read the announcement, and it was as if the baseball gods knew that they had to say goodbye to Willie as well when the announcement was made. How did you find out?
Well, we went to Rickwood last night to check it out to see what it's like, and believe me, it's hot. And it's like a little spring training park. It reminds me of going to Surprise. And I went up to the TV booth where my friend, Rich Waltz.
Yes.
Yeah, Rich was broadcasting the minor league game on the MLB network.
I actually heard his announcement. He got incredibly emotional.
Yeah, well, Rich is from the Bay Area. He's a wonderful broadcaster. He was up there with Chris Young last night. Um, so I'm up there, and it's comfortable. He's got air conditioning. I couldn't believe it. I said, "Boy, this is nice." So we spent a couple of innings up there watching the game, and then I said, "That's enough." I've got the feel of Rickwood, and we came back to the hotel, and I got a text. About 8:30, I forgot what time it was, from Rich. It just said, "Boy, this is awful news." And Heather, who's with me, beer can, said, "Well, it could be Willie. Oh no!" And sure enough, we followed up and learned that's how I heard that Willie had passed.
It was a moment that brought my house to a standstill. Jillian heard John Miller make the announcement. We were watching Giants and Cubs, and John Miller said it, and I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. And it was as if the gravity of the situation fell upon the shoulders of my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old. They knew that something serious had just happened. And it's certainly a moment in time that I won't forget. I'm so happy, and we're so fortunate that you were able to come on by and share some of your experience. And by the way, I saw her behind you. Please tell Heather I said hello. I saw a beautiful woman there behind you. Hello, Heather.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, I'm well. It's been a very emotional day.
I'm sure it has been. Tell me what you thought of Rickwood Field and the park where the series is going to go down.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like Marty said, it's like a spring training facility. It's like 8,000, capacity. I had a very homey feeling. You can see that the steel is ancient, and things are like, really crusty, so you have that sense of the age of the stadium. And yeah, lots of smiles, very friendly staff, beautifully welcomed there. It was great.
Wonderful to catch up with the two of you. I'm glad, Marty, I really am. I'm glad that you're in Alabama for this. I'm so sorry that your friend isn't with you to celebrate this moment, but you got Heather with you, and that's what really matters.
But, and we did the civil rights tour today and learned so much about Birmingham and how Willie grew up. And Damon, you've done such a nice job. You know that. You're one of my sons. You'll always be that way. I always respect everything you've done. And Willie was kind of like that. Willie was someone that you could look at and you knew you got your best effort, just like you do. And I think knowing Willie for me and him trusting me, I'm the kid from Brooklyn. I'm at Ebbets Field watching him play. I'm got my little Dodger hat with the B on it, and I'm watching him. Next thing you know, I'm sitting there asking him, how does he want to be remembered? And now he's gone.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Marty. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend in spite of all the gravity that is now around this weekend. Enjoy yourself. I hope you and Heather have a wonderful time. Thank you for framing this very important moment. There is no one better I could have asked to come do it. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Be well. Thank you.
Good to see you.